Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD, Pro Physique Athlete. Today I'm going to be giving you a full 5-day hypertrophy program based on the PHUL setup. PHUL stands for Power Hypertrophy Upper Lower. It is essentially a form of DUP or daily undulating periodization where you have days early in the week focused on lower rep, higher weight work or more power type training, and then days later on in the week focus on slightly lighter weight but higher rep training or more traditional hypertrophy work. The upper lower split is very versatile and we'll be using it as the base foundation for this program. Upper lower works very well in a 5-day setup when you have 3 upper body days and 2 lower body days. This will be a moderate volume program well designed for a late beginner and onward. The idea behind the DUP setup is that you have days focused on heavier strength type work early in the week, and this allows you to really focus on specific heavy training to develop strength. Then you can accumulate more volume later in the week without having to stress your connective tissues as much by lifting heavy all the time. We'll start off with a program walkthrough where I'll share everything you'll need to know to run the program yourself, including exercises, sets, and reps. Then we'll talk about the weekly layout or how to spread out your days across the week. And finally, we'll talk about the pros and cons of this 5-day full program. Alright, let's do our program walkthrough. So this is Dr. Swole's 5-day upper lower full program that is Power Hypertrophy Upper Lower. It's a moderate volume program designed for a late beginner and onward. We have upper body day 1, lower body day 1, upper body day 2, lower body day 2, and upper body day 3. Here are the exercises and there are the sets and reps. Down here we have the total number of sets for each workout so you have an idea of workout length. And down here we have the total number of sets for each muscle group each week. Let's start with upper body day 1. Barbell bench press for the chest. We have 3 sets here. We're going to be using a top set back off method. 1 top heavy set of 1 to 3 reps and then 2 back off sets of 3 to 6 reps with lighter weight. This will allow you to fit in some really heavy specific work with that single, double, or triple, and then back off and still get a bit more volume afterwards. And for context, upper body day 1 and lower body day 1 are going to be more strength focused or your power days, while these other 3 days are going to be your traditional more hypertrophy type training. Next, we have weighted chin-ups for the back, 4 sets, and we're also using a top set back-off method here. 1 top heavy set of 5 to 8 reps, followed by 3 back-off sets of 3 to 6 reps with lighter weight. Then we have dumbbell overhead press, which mainly trains your anterior delts, but also hit a bit of your upper pecs and triceps. 1 top heavy set of 5 to 8 reps, followed by 1 back-off set of 6 to 10 reps with lighter weight. Note here that you'll see me programming accessory movements with the top set back off method. And this is an example of how versatile this method is. You can use it for a lot of accessory movements. Not all movements are going to lend themselves well to heavy strength training. But for example, weighted chin-ups are underrated in this regard. And I do see them as somewhat of a strength movement. Then we have easy bar skull crushers for the triceps, 4 sets of 6 to 10, followed by easy bar curls for the biceps, 4 sets of 6 to 10. You can superset these 2 movements. Then we have dumbbell lateral raises for the side delts, 4 sets of 8 to 12. In this workout, you can actually do a tri-set if you wanted of these 3 exercises because none of them interfere with each other. This is something that I've done quite a bit of in the past where I've supersetted biceps, triceps, and side delts at the end of your workout. This way you can save time without sacrificing productivity of your sets. Since the other muscle groups are going to be resting while you're training one of these 3 muscle groups, you're not going to be interfering with the performance on any single one. Next, we have lower body day 1. We start off with front squats for the quads, 3 sets, and we're using a top set back off method here. 1 top set of 2 to 6 reps, followed by 2 back off sets of 2 to 6 reps. Front squats tend to do well with lower rep ranges, which means they'll do well on these power days. Then we have deadlifts for the glutes and hamstrings, 1 top heavy set of 4 to 6, and that's all you've got for deadlifts. Just warm up to 1 top heavy set. You should be able to progress on your deadlift even with just 1 heavy set. Then we have Bulgarian split squats for the glutes and hamstrings, but also the quads, 3 sets of 8 to 12, and that's 8 to 12 reps on each side. Then we have leg extensions for the quads, 3 sets of 10 to 15. And finally, machine calf raises for the calves. We're using a MyRep scheme here, so 1 main set of 10 to 15 reps, followed by 7 mini sets of 3 to 5 reps, with about 10 seconds rest in between all of these. And you'll be keeping the weight stable here. I'm approximating this as 5 straight sets. Then we have upper body day 2. We have T-bar rows for the back, 4 sets, and we're working up to 1 top heavy set here, followed by 3 back off sets, all in the 6 to 10 rep range. After that, dumbbell bench press for the chest, 3 sets of 8 to 12, incline dumbbell flies for the chest, 3 sets of 10 to 15. Then we have the Dr. Swole pull down for the back, 3 sets of 12 to 20. These are a single arm pull down that I came up with where you sit on the ground with your body facing about 45 degrees from the line of pull of the cable. I like this variation because it gives you more control over your actual line of pull. You can get a really good stretch and externally rotate at the top, which means palm facing forward, and then you can always rotate a bit into a more neutral position on the way down, which is stronger for the lats. Then we have cable upright rows for the side delts, but also the traps, 4 sets of 8 to 12, and cable hammer curls for the biceps, 4 sets of 8 to 12. Going on to lower body day 2, we start with Romanian deadlifts for the glutes and hamstrings, 3 sets, and you work up to 1 top heavy set of 6 to 10 reps, followed by 2 back off sets of 6 to 10 reps. This is our main accessory movement for the deadlift. Note that if you do have strength goals and you want more frequency and volume for your deadlifts, you could swap out this RDL with more deadlifting. That way you'll be able to develop more technical adaptations and accumulate more volume. If you're able to progress your deadlift with just 1 top heavy set, I would just stick with that for this program. Then we have Smith machine squats for the quads, 3 sets of 8 to 12, leg presses for the quads, 3 sets of 10 to 15, and while you're on the leg press machine, you can superset with calf raises. So we're going to work up to 1 main set of 8 to 12 reps, followed by 7 mini sets of 3 to 5 reps. So that's a my rep scheme again, and I'm approximating this as 5 straight sets. Finally, we have leg curls for the hamstrings, 3 sets of 10 to 15. Notice that our lower body days have fewer sets than our upper body days. This is because lower body training is significantly more fatiguing than upper body movements. So the fatigue ends up evening out. Also notice that I deliberately placed this heavy T-bar row on this upper body day 2 rather than this upper body day 1 because I wanted to separate it from deadlifts. I deliberately put it before RDLs because if you put it after RDLs, you may not perform as well on T-bar rows if you're already fatigued from heavy RDLs. There is a rest day here and here, which I haven't talked about. We'll talk more about that in the layout section. Then we have upper body day 3. We start with close grip bench press for the chest and triceps. We're using a top set back off method here as well. 1 top heavy set of 6 to 10 reps, followed by 2 back off sets of 6 to 10 reps with about 10% lighter weight. In terms of our chest programming here, our main chest movements are going to be our barbell bench press and dumbbell bench press. So I deliberately place these on the 2 upper body days that are most spread out across the week. Close grip bench is more of an accessory movement, and I place it here because it's not going to affect our barbell bench press as much as if I put a dumbbell bench press here. Then we have machine overhead presses, 3 sets of 8 to 12. Chest supported rows for the back, 5 sets of 8 to 12. Then cable press downs for the triceps, 3 sets of 10 to 15. Then line bicep curls where you lie back on a horizontal bench. They're like a more exaggerated version of incline curls, 3 sets of 8 to 12. Finally, cable lateral raises for the side delts, 4 sets of 12 to 20. I'll also point out some of my exercise selection here, so I deliberately placed more heavy oriented movements like easy bar skull crushers and easy bar curls on this power day. Even for isolation work like for the arms, there are certain exercises that do better with heavy weights and lower rep ranges. Typically bilateral free weight movements are examples of these. Okay, now that you've seen the program, let's talk about the program layout. So here's my preferred layout of days. Upper body day 1, lower body day 1, rest, upper 2, lower 2, upper 3, and rest. The upper lower split actually works particularly well for 5 days per week. As you can see, our upper body days are nicely spread out from each other, and our lower body days are also spread out nicely from each other. So you end up getting a nice rhythm of days since you're alternating. This setup also works well for our full programming since we place our toughest days, our power days, on the first 2 days, which are in a 2-day segment, rather than our 3-day segment with relatively easier workouts. Keep in mind that when you have upper body days and lower body days back to back, you want the upper body day to come first. This is because a tough lower body day can impact your upper body day training coming afterwards, but not so much the other way around. Note that I deliberately ordered the upper, lower, and upper body days in this manner so that upper body days get spread out from each other as much as possible. You always want to be thinking about fatigue distribution in your programming. Now, the good thing about the upper lower split is that you do have some flexibility. So you could potentially, for example, move this upper body day over here, although this wouldn't be ideal because we have tough deadlifts on this day and then T-bar rows on this upper body day too. The 5-day setup also is not as flexible as say a 4-day upper lower because you have fewer rest days to play with. Let's talk about the pros and cons of this 5-day full hypertrophy program. First of all, this program as an upper lower split is very well balanced. One of the issues with the upper lower split when you run it in a symmetrical fashion, which is 4 or 6 days per week, since there are more muscles to train in the upper body, you end up having long upper body days or you have difficulty balancing out your upper and lower body training. So if you want balanced growth of the upper and lower body, you do kind of have to make some modifications to the split. But in this setup, since we have 3 upper body days and 2 lower body days, we can actually balance out our upper and lower body volumes really nicely. So you can see that I was able to set up this split without having to do many fancy modifications, like moving biceps off of upper body days onto lower body days like I usually do. I actually think a ratio of 3 upper body days to 2 lower body days is a really nice balance. Sometimes in other splits like push-pull legs, where you have 4 upper body days to 2 lower body days, it can become a little bit unbalanced, where you end up having really tough leg days compared to your upper body days. Next, this program has good use of daily undulating periodization, or DUP. The idea is that you can really focus on that specific training on your power days, and then be able to rest your connective tissues a little bit later in the week when you're doing that slightly lighter work. Note that you still are going pretty heavy on your hypertrophy days, and this is according to my training style. I typically like to spread out my training stress as much as possible throughout the week. Finally, we have high frequency for the upper body in this 5-day split. Since we have 3 upper body days, we have the opportunity to train all of our upper body day muscles 3 times per week. First of all, this is really helpful because it allows you to jack up your volumes without sacrificing productivity. As your training volumes get higher, you want to spread out that volume over more workouts so that you can maximize productivity of every set. As a rule of thumb, you don't want to have more than about 8 to 10 sets for one muscle group in one workout. If you do, you won't be performing as well on your last few sets. I'll also note that this higher frequency can have some indirect advantages for your upper body. If you wanted to prioritize your pressing, you'd have the ability to bench 3 times per week, for example. Or you could bench twice per week and have an accessory press in the middle. The world is your oyster. So that is one thing I do like about higher frequency programs, is that they give you a lot of flexibility for programming in strength and hypertrophy work. Now let's talk about cons of this 5-day full program. First of all, this 5-day upper lower split has biceps and triceps coming after pulling and pushing movements. This is an inherent disadvantage of the upper lower split. Typically in an upper body day, you'll have your pushing and pulling compound movements coming before your isolation arm training. This is generally the ideal ordering because you want to prioritize your main heavy compound movements to get the most out of them. The problem is pushing and pulling movements use your biceps and triceps indirectly. And if your arms get fatigued from these compound movements, they may not perform as well on your isolation work coming afterwards. Note that this actually isn't that big of a deal in this program. You'll see that in other upper lower programs set for 4 days per week on this channel, I'll typically move biceps off of upper body days onto lower body days. This allows you to train them when they're fresh. But here in a 5-day upper lower split, since you have 3 upper body days, this actually isn't much of a problem since your upper body training is spread out over more days. So you're actually not doing that much pushing and pulling in any given workout. That means your biceps and triceps actually won't be that fatigued going into your arm training, and you'll probably still perform well. So I don't really consider this a major issue in this program. Next, this program can have suboptimal fatigue distribution if you are advanced. The problem with DUP is you end up bunching up your heavy strength type training. This can work for strength, but if you're purely focused on hypertrophy, I would prefer that you spread out your training for strength and hypertrophy and mix it up across the week. Note that this will not be a problem for beginners, where fatigue just isn't that big of an issue. Beginners just can't lift that much weight, so it isn't going to be a problem. Finally, this program does require some auto-regulation, particularly for your upper body. When you start breaking into higher frequencies like 3 times per week or more, you do need to be able to modify your training on the fly depending on how you're feeling. It is very possible that you might be sore in a certain muscle group and then have to train it again. So it does help to have the experience to be able to modify your RAR, or how close you train to failure, your reps in reserve, so that you're not going balls to the wall in every workout. So this is why I typically don't recommend higher frequency training to absolute novices. That being said, the 5-day upper lower split is an awesome split all around, and you should definitely consider it if you're training 5 days per week. If you want to see another setup for 5 days per week, check out this video where I share a full 5-day hypertrophy program based on the Dr. Swole Arnold split. This is a hybrid split combining the Dr. Swole split and the Arnold split. For more free evidence-based hypertrophy programs that actually work, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.